Morning everyone. So today I'm going to move it off. Actually, I don't like that view. I'll move it here. So today I'm going to talk about I'm not myself. That wasn't a very good sentence. But yeah, talk about not being myself at work and things like that. So first of all, I know that I've only been... Oh, my face is so dry. I noticed that before. I know I've only been in the job I'm in for a week exactly, and building connections with my colleagues and with the students will take time, obviously, but I still feel that way, and I thought it'd be good to talk about it because I think a lot of people probably relate to this as well. I also know that we all to some extent put on different personas depending on what environment we're in, the people we're with, all these sort of things. And yeah, that's just kind of humans, isn't it? But yeah, I felt like in terms of how I communicate with my colleagues, there's some quite big personalities and like quite big male personalities, and I find that I had that at school. I also had that at my previous job, but I find that sometimes I struggle with that quite a bit, because I think going from my previous job where there were big male personalities, but I'd only see those guys once a week, and I think over time I felt more like I could be myself. But even then I feel like I was holding back a bit because I think it comes from when I was at school, and I would associate that with like me closing myself in and then being vulnerable to getting bullied, because it did tend to be my mates, and some of my mates were guys who had big personalities and were loud and very confident and out there and outgoing and just quite like intimidating, I suppose. Oh yeah, that was probably the word, intimidating. And I think I sort of navigated that, and I tended to, at uni, although there were these big personalities, with like the groups that like my friendship groups, I learned to kind of adapt, and also I feel like I'm pretty confident and outgoing, but I'm not loud. I wouldn't describe myself as loud. Like I'm pretty like chilled out. I'm not going to be the loudest person in the room. I might be the person that talks quite a lot, but I wouldn't say I'm the one like the big personality at all. That's not how I describe myself. So I think yeah, I'm wondering whether maybe that's where it comes from school, where I associate, like, one of my friendship groups was like a big group of guys, and they were the ones that, well, most people would, but I feel like they were one of the big factors of, like, not factors, but what's the word? They were the ones who maybe the bullying was the worst from, maybe, because it's loud, it's intimidating, it's like boisterous, that kind of stuff. And yeah, so I think how I was at my previous job, where for the most part, I didn't feel like that at all. And then with the guys, I feel like I felt at school like when guys are being loud and jokey, I can take part a bit, but I wasn't very good at that. I feel like because I was very shy in my early teenage years, I'm really reserved, I maybe missed out on having that personality of being a bit jokey and that, and being a bit louder. And then when a lot of people were doing that, I was closing myself off and I wouldn't really get involved. I think also because I was afraid of getting judged and saying the wrong thing and looking silly, and maybe that's carried through. Might just be how I am, to be honest. I'm just kind of figuring out who I am, you know. But yeah, so then I feel like my previous job, fairly quickly, I was able to feel like myself quite a lot. I felt like I felt like I belonged in that group. And then with the lads, when I went once a week, again, like over time, I felt like I belonged more. And that was more difficult for me because they were bigger personalities, and I sometimes struggle with that because I find it quite intimidating. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, especially if you're a guy like with other guys. And like, yeah, I wonder what some of your experiences are. Also, I would say my best mate, he's a big personality, and I found that, like, I've figured out how to sort of, well, I mean, we've always been best mates, but I feel like sometimes I found it difficult in terms of, I don't know, maybe feeling like I'm too shy, or like I can't communicate on the same level. But then, I mean, I think it's worked out because we're still best mates, you know. And I think the two personalities kind of work together, where I'm like, I am confident, I'm outgoing, I'm like good at, I think I'm pretty good at talking to people and quite sociable, but I'm not necessarily loud, and like, I don't know, I can be quite quiet too, which is quite strange. So I think maybe that's why that has worked, where the two personalities kind of work together. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, then coming to this job, again, only been a week, but I find there's like these bigger personalities, and I have liked that, and I do like that. And like, in terms of like a football environment, I find sometimes it's quite intimidating, definitely. But I think in like a football environment, I can establish myself by playing, and like on the pitch, I feel like I'm one of my most confident. Yeah, I'm very vocal, talky a lot, shouting a lot, like in a good way, most of the time. And just I'm very confident because I love my football and I feel confident in my ability. Played football last night, by the way. We won. Scored a hat-trick. Very happy. Yeah, it's good fun. Anyway, so yeah, in like that football environment, I was used to the laddishness and the big, bold, loud personalities. I kind of worked with that. I'd either kind of push myself out my comfort zone to maybe challenge the kind of hierarchy in terms of, if that makes sense, of like people that were louder, maybe more popular, whatever. Maybe try to like match that and see how it goes, or just like, I don't know, almost like earning, like, it sounds really silly, but almost like earning the respect to be on a level where you can communicate with them and you're not putting them on some pedestal, or like they're not reachable in terms of being on this communication level, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'm sounding silly, but I guess like at least in school, I don't know how much. But yeah, maybe in adulthood, when I've been trying to sort of like figure out my identity and stuff, like while at uni, and I found that, yeah, I've definitely struggled with feeling like myself in groups, even at uni, just feeling like the quiet one, and feeling like the one, I don't know, like an imposter. I think, again, we all feel like that probably. But yeah, I think in this new job, it will definitely change, and I'll become more confident and sort of find my place in the workplace, both like how I build up connections with the students, but also with my colleagues. I think I will, as I kind of, I don't know, get comfortable in the work environment, build up those relationships with my colleagues and those connections, I will start to come out my shell a bit. But I think maybe I put a lot of like, I don't know, what's the word? Spiral, but not, I don't think that's the word. It's more like I identify something maybe that I don't like, such as me being in my shell a bit, and then I blow it up into like, oh, this is an issue. I don't know how much I'm doing out of this, because I'm just I thought about it on the walk. I've been thinking about it a bit anyway, how I would, but I think yesterday I noticed how I was pretty quiet, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Like, it's completely fine to be quiet, and I also just like to listen. But I think when I wasn't able to kind of contribute to the conversation and sort of joke with people, with the lads, I felt a bit like, oh, am I kind of reverting back to how I used to be at school, and maybe in my previous job a little bit at uni. And I think I've come quite a long way in terms of like being much more confident, and confident can mean lots of different things. It doesn't mean being loud, it doesn't mean being like outwardly like outgoing and like sociable. It doesn't have to mean that. But I think for me, I have become much more sociable in that way, and more confident with people, and like feeling like I fit in a bit more. And then maybe I'm just a bit scared that like I can struggle with bigger personalities, and I can find it quite intimidating, knowing where I fit in, because I'm like on one hand quite calm, I don't know, kind of calm, like it depends. I'm a bit all over the place, but I can also be quite calm when I need to be, maybe. I don't know. Bit up and down, isn't it? Like in certain environments I'm more calm. Maybe in like a work environment, like with the kids, where you have to be. I think that's probably part of it too. It's like I have to model myself in a way that is like professional enough in like the school environment, so it's going to be hard to switch from classroom to staff room, the personality, like, and maybe like being a bit, I don't know, more professional, because in my previous job, it was like an office job, and most of my time would be spent just with my colleagues, and then I'd have like meetings with the young people, things like that, but a lot of the time, the majority would be just my colleagues. And so you get used to just being yourself, because you can chat about things and be silly and that sort of thing. Well, at least in my previous job. But yeah, I think I will like come out of my shell and not be as reserved. But I think it maybe just made me think, yeah, you're doing this where you're closing yourself off a bit, and I don't know why. Maybe it's like a safety thing. Maybe it's like, don't push it, because then you might say the wrong thing, and maybe like the child part of myself is kind of like, oh, they won't like you, you know? It doesn't really matter. Like, obviously I want people to like me, but it doesn't really matter. Oh, I hope I haven't been covering up the microphones, speakers. Oh, anyway, it's raining a bit now. I think I found my spot, by the way. I'm on some like concrete, I want to say, and I'm in nature. It is raining, not ideal, but I feel like I'm less self-conscious because I can kind of see people if they come round in front of me. Yeah, I hope this is kind of making sense, but yeah, I think I'm just kind of figuring out how I want to be at work, and how I want to be both as like a LSA, learning support assistant, basically a teaching assistant, how I want to be like with the students, and like not how professional, but like my style. Again, this will all come with time, but also how I am with the other staff, and establishing myself in the group and the community. And yeah, I think it's coming up, because I have struggled a lot with that in the past, whatever group I've been in, feeling like I don't belong, and probably also feeling a bit scared that I will be judged, and a lot of that will come from like getting bullied, I think. And maybe feeling like you are part of something, but then you also feel like, how can I be part of something because I'm not being like treated very well. Yeah, but to be honest, the same with my previous job. Like, everyone was lovely at my previous job. Pretty much everyone. Like, everyone like that I would work with regularly. No, in fact, I would say everyone. I don't think I didn't like anyone. I was thinking more like the wider business, but I think everyone was pretty great. Especially the people I'd work with normally. They were just amazing, and I think I will cherish that. And even at this job, everyone has been absolutely lovely and warm, and I think it's just kind of now not overthinking it and just trying to be myself, trying to just be. And if that means I'm going to be reserved in this environment, then okay. But I don't think I will be. I think I will be able to come out my shell, especially when like the guys like football. I love football. So there's a lot to bond over there. I think it's always going to be difficult coming into a group where people know each other a bit already and kind of have built those relationships, and then you're coming into it, and how do you fit in? What's your sort of role in the group? But yeah, everyone's been lovely, so I know that there is definitely space for that. There's space for me to kind of be myself, and it's just on me to now to do that. Yeah, I think that's probably it from me, everyone. I've realised that this is like a 17-minute video, and I do need to go to work. So yeah, thank you very much for listening to my thoughts. Yeah, wonder if my work colleagues will somehow stumble across this and realise that maybe how I feel like I am in different environments, I'm not really at work yet. But yeah, again, week 1, things will change, and I'm loving it, to be honest. Yesterday was quite difficult. The students were playing up a bit, but still really enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah, I will speak to you tomorrow, and I hope you all have a lovely day. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and take care. Bye.